Hello everyone, welcome. And this is DC Vijay. I am a North-South national team member and a coordinator for the webinars. Glad to see you all here today and wish you all Happy New Year and Happy Sankranti, everything. Just like we did last year, we are planning to bring in a few of our past winners and of the various subject matters to talk to their younger peers about their experience, answer their questions, and encourage them to participate in those contests. So we call this as a Meet the Pro type of webinar. We had a session, a last session in spelling and vocab a couple of weeks ago, and today we are meeting a few of our Brain Bee pros. We have right now a number of pros very eager to meet with you all and talk to you all and share their thoughts and experiences, and also to answer your question. Finally, our regional contest registrations have started, and people have been registering. And as you know, by the end of this month, you get a early bird registration discount. So please make use of that and also register and let a contest. And as we always say, it's not the winning, it's the participating that makes you educated or helps you learn. I have a small Brain Bee, and since it's a Brain Bee webinar, I have a small quiz to ask you. Where do we store the information about what you ate for breakfast today, which we might forget by the dinner time? But what was your favorite food item during relatives' marriage years ago? You still remember? Where do these informations are stored? Think about it. We can talk about it later. Maybe one of the pros will answer that question for us. Okay, so without much ado, let me start introducing the panel. We have our current president of North-South Foundation, Dr. Balu Natarajan, MD, is here. And he might be moderating the session also. Dr. Balu Natarajan, as we all know, has been a big supporter of North-South Foundation for so many years in the past. And also he's the first Indian American to win the Scripps National Spelling Bee back in 1985. He's a medical doctor specializing in internal medicine, sports medicine, hospice, and palliative medicine. And I can't find anybody else more qualified to lead this Brain Bee group. I welcome Dr. Balu to introduce the panel.
I'm really excited to welcome our panelists. Unfortunately, we have a few people that couldn't join us today, but this group is truly outstanding. We met last year, Priyanka Senthil. She's a freshman at Rice University, and she participated in the Brain Bee throughout high school, placed third at the 2019 North-South National Senior Brain Bee competition. She's worked as a research intern in a neuroscience lab, studying the role of parvalbumin neurons in synaptic transmission. And she's also a big believer in giving back. She also helps North-South with Brain Bee content development and coaching. Aryan Verma is a sophomore at the University of Texas in Dallas, majoring in neuroscience and aspires to become a neurologist. On campus, he's the co-president of Comets Help, an organization that is dedicated to preventing delirium in hospitalized elderly patients. Aryan conducts research at the Institute of Exercise and Environmental Medicine. He investigates the effect of aerobic exercise on cerebrovascular function in the geriatric population. He has participated in North-South competitions since he was 6 years old and was the champion of the 2019 North-South National Senior Brain Bee competition. Aryan won first place at the Kansas State Brain Bee in 2020, was a U.S. National Brain Bee Championship finalist. In his free time, we need to finish on time because Aryan binge watches NFL games and sadly these days follows the Los Angeles Lakers. Shouri Bochetty is currently a freshman at the University of South Florida in the 7-year bachelor's MD program. He was always fascinated by the brain and the nervous system and how they interacted with the rest of the body to coordinate most of the actions of the body. Through competing and learning about brain B, he has gained a basic understanding of the nervous system that sparked as many questions as it answered. This motivated him to pursue Alzheimer's disease research, where he investigates the impact of the gut microbiota on amyloid plaque deposition. Currently, he is working in an oncology research lab. You heard Dr. Vijay mention that Sehej Bindra is not able to join us. He's a student at UC Berkeley studying molecular and cellular biology. He won 3rd place in the USA Brain Bee and co-authored Somatosensory Science Facts with his mentor, Chuck Pidgeon. In high school, he was captain of the WWP North Science Olympiad, HOSA, and Biology Olympiad team. He also enjoys volunteering to teach students. He founded an online learning organization, sciovirtual.org. We'll get you that link later on, that provides quality science and math courses made by competition winners to thousands of middle school students and Olympiad teams. He's personally taught over 100 students in science, Olympiad, and Brain Bee, including one student that eventually won the national competition. One of the mentors of this group for North South is Dr. Sunil Manjila. He's a neurosurgeon working at the Hartford HealthCare Medical Group in Connecticut. He trained in India at Christian Medical College and then trained again here at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. He enjoys cranial as well as spinal neurosurgery, has co-authored a spine surgery textbook, published over 100 peer-reviewed PubMed index papers with 1,600 plus citations, is a reviewer for several neurosurgery journals, and serves on content development committee of the North-South Foundation. He is also a member of several skull and neurosurgical societies. Unfortunately, he's not with us, but we will turn it back over to Dr. Vijay to moderate the discussion.
Yeah, I would probably ask Krishnan to come on to the, and then.
Yes, Daisy.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, he's also our chief education in this thing, and I would like him to moderate this session with this group. But let us start with introductions of the panelists. I will call upon Priyanka. She's not new to us. She was a participant in the last year Brain Bee competition too, and also she has provided a webinar for us on lung cancer effects. So Priyanka, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vijay, and thank you, Dr. Natarajan, for the really kind introduction. So hi, everyone. My name is Priyanka, and like Dr. Natarajan said, I'm a student currently at Rice University. I'm majoring in health sciences, hopefully on a pre-med track. And I started Brain Bee right when I got into high school. So I started preparing in 8th grade, and I competed throughout high school, and it was a really wonderful opportunity for me to learn more about the brain, but also develop other skills like discipline and learning how to study, because the Brain Facts book is a very dense book. And so I was able to build a lot of important skills that have really helped me throughout high school, as well as in college as well. And so I really encourage that if you are even the slightest bit interested in learning about the brain, or even just seeing what Brain Bee is about, I would highly recommend that you participate, because the Brain Bee competition it's really more than just a 1-hour competition. The skills, knowledge, and the discipline that you build while studying and preparing for this competition will help you in the future. So I really recommend that if you're interested, that you try it out. And then just to talk about the lung cancer screening webinar that Dr. Vijay just mentioned, I'm currently working in a lung cancer research lab at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And so that is definitely one of my biggest passions right now. We're researching about the incidence and mortality of lung cancer, and especially why lung cancer is increasing in younger populations, so in our 20 to 29-year-olds. And so it's a really big concern for us, because right now lung cancer screening is only recommended for older populations. And so with lung cancer screening incidence increasing in younger populations, we really need to figure out why that's happening and how we can get those younger populations screened. So yeah, now I'll hand it over to Aryan.
Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you, Dr. Vijay, for hosting this wonderful session, and Dr. Balu Natarajan for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Aryan, and I'm a former Brain Bee competitor. Similar to Priyanka, I also started participating in Brain Bee in high school. My interest about the brain stemmed from a course I took over the summer through iStart Valley with Dr. Banerjee, who's a professor at Emory University. And through that course, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just loved learning about the human body and wanted to learn more about specific organs. So I took that course on a whim, and little did I know that it would foster an interest in neuroscience. So after I took that course, there was no looking back. I think because of that course, I really learned about the different parts of the brain and found that the brain is probably one of the only organs in the body which we have not fully understood yet, and we're learning something new about every single day. So with that inspiration from Dr. Banerjee, I started participating in Brain Bee competitions through NSF and other ones hosted in the regional and national areas. And participating in Brain Bee through NSF has taught me a lot of things. For me, preparation was probably one of the most important things. So learning how to put in hard work and learning that engaging in an academic journey is a marathon, you know? So it requires a lot of support from family members, requires a lot of support from peers and your mentors. So the preparation for the NSF competition was definitely helpful in instilling tenacity and a level of deep learning, you know, which I think we all love, and learning has no age. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity and excited to answer any questions that the panelists may have today from parents, middle school students, and high school students. With that, I turn it over to Shouri.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Shouri, and thank you all for coming here and learning more about the Brain Bee. So I participated in the North-South Brain Bee in 2018, and I also participated in the Chicago Brain Bee as well as the National Brain Bee during my junior year of high school. And I was always fascinated and interested by the brain, specifically like how the brain coordinates motor movements and how it interacts with the other parts of the body. And so this really got me interested in studying more about neuroscience and participating in the Brain Bee. And I think through participating in the Brain Bee, my knowledge of my fundamental knowledge of the nervous system, the central and the peripheral nervous system, was really furthered. And that also really sparked my interest in continuing to study neuroscience as well as the human body throughout my undergraduate and professional career. And one thing I really learned about the Brain Bee was how to be able to really read dense text, because the first time I read the Brain Facts book, I was a little bit taken aback and surprised by how dense the book was. I think over participating in the Brain Bee and working through that book, I really learned how to navigate through dense scientific readings.
Thank you, all of you. I'm really very glad you guys are here to talk to the younger peers and then encourage them to get into this area. And I would like all the attendees to start posting your questions so that we can keep moving with the next phase. But before we start the question and answer, I'm going to have a small info session on this Brain Bee contest. I'm going to invite Priyanka to give a presentation about this. Let me turn on that.
So this is just a quick presentation on the rules, preparation, and registration for the Brain Bee. So just cover some of the key details, but you can also find this on the North-South website if you want to look over it again. So the Brain Bee has two levels. It has an intermediate Brain Bee and a senior Brain Bee section. So the intermediate Brain Bee is for grades 6 through 8, and the senior Brain Bee is for grades 9 through 11. And this year, both intermediate and senior Brain Bees will have a written online examination only. And so contestants will have 25 questions to answer within 30 minutes. And there will be only multiple choice questions. And it's really important that you submit before the time expires because only the sections that you have chosen before the timer ends or before you submit will be graded. So please make sure to do that. And there's no partial credit. So what that means is that you can't upload, scratch paperwork or other materials that you've used, and only the answer choices that you've selected will be graded. And you can change your answers as many times as you like, so there's no limitations on that. But as I mentioned before, just make sure that you have finalized your answers before the timer runs out, or you hit submit, whichever comes earlier. And it is also important to note that incorrect answers do not result in deductions. So it is in your best interest to attempt each question, even if you're unsure. So just take your best guess. And so correct answers will be 1 point, and incorrect answers will be 0. So again, only correct answers will add to your point score, and incorrect will not deduct. So you can use a blank sheet of paper if you need to do any calculations or anything like that. And so pens and pencils are welcome for the exam, but you cannot use a calculator, textbooks, handwritten or electronic notes, definitely not websites, phones, smartwatches, things like that. So please no other form of external help, either in person or online by messaging, email, etc. And all questions will be graded electronically. So how do we determine winners and ranking? Winners will be determined based on online exam scores, and the first place winner will need to be ahead by at least 1 point to be declared the champion. And the number of winners or the number of rankings is dependent on the number of contestants. So for example, if there are more than 10 contestants, then there will be 3 rankings. If there are only 8 to 9 contestants, there will only be 2. And if there are only 5 to 7, there will be only 1 rank. And if there are less than 5 contestants, unfortunately, no rank will be announced. So both the International Brain Bee and Senior Brain Bee contestants will be invited to national finals based on their score. And the invitation is based on the scores of all contestants nationally. So it is not based on on like one regional contest. So just another way to say that is the score of each contestant is relative to all scores around the country, and that is how we determine who will advance onto nationals. And so the regional contests don't really play a role in determining who goes to nationals. And the regional tiebreakers that we'll talk about. There are regional tiebreakers, and that is just to help determine who is the champion if 2 people have the same score, and those are only helpful in determining the winners for a particular center. And if a tiebreaker does have to come into play, it will not bear any role in the finals invitation.
And also, you don't have to win a regional to be invited to the finals, right? It's based on the score.
Yes. So how to register? So from the home page of the North-South website, you can select US activities and then go to contests and then regional contests. And from the main page, you can then click to register online. And I have a screenshot in the next slide to show that. And then once you log in, you can then add your children or yourself and register for various contests. And it is important to note that online registration generally closes 2 weeks before the contest date. And the contest date is dependent on where you're competing, so on your regional location. So because of this, it is important that you check your contest calendar for your chapter. And then the contest venue and date will be uploaded to the site as soon as that information is available. And so this is just a screenshot showing the process. So you just click on US activities and then go to regionals online, and the register online button is in the red box there. So preparation is also listed on the North-South website, but the International Brain Bee and Senior Brain Bee have slightly different material to read. The Intermediate Brain Bee has the textbook on the right, on the left, and the Senior Brain Bee has the Brain Facts book. And you can get the links to both of these by going to the preparation tab on the North-South website. And it is important to note that only 70% of the exam questions will come from these 2 textbooks. And so 30% can come from outside sources 30% of the questions can test you on knowledge that might not be in these 2 textbooks. So this is just to encourage you all to read other textbooks, use other resources, and expand your knowledge beyond just these two sources. And we can also talk about some other preparation materials if you guys have any questions about that. And so for 2022, we also have contest prep clubs. And so the info is on the homepage again. And so these prep clubs will be held from January 29th, so coming up very soon, through April 2nd. And the registration deadlines are also coming up soon. Some are tomorrow and within the next 2 weeks. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend that you look into this. And most subjects offer coaching, so definitely take a look. And then this is just another screenshot showing the different options that are there.
So Priyanka, I think we wanted to highlight also that the available spots are listed on the last column. So only about 12 spots are left altogether. If you're interested in registering for any preparation sessions, this is your last day to register, I believe. Thank you.
That's all I had, Dr. Vijay.
That's all? Okay. So thank you very much, Priyanka. And who are all interested, please go ahead and register. And let's listen to the experts talk about the answer your questions. So let's jump into the questions I have already. What is a book they are referring to? What is it? I don't know. You said the book you referred to was some brain facts, right?
Yes, correct. So the Brain Facts book is the book for the senior Brain Bee, but I would also highly recommend it for those preparing for international Brain Bee, or sorry, intermediate Brain Bee. But the Brain Facts book can be found on brainfacts.org, and that is where the majority of the questions for the senior Brain Bee will come from. And I can actually put in the links to those direct. I can put in links to the direct PDFs in the chat, or I can send it to you, Dr. Vijay, so you can send it out.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd like to ask each of you, are there any good resources outside the ones North Southeast been given in the website? Do you go to any other additional resources? Aryan? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a prep course from iStart Valley that I took to also help me prepare for the Brain Bee. So I can put that in the chat, or I'll find the link for it and I can put it in the chat so you all have access to it. In addition to that, I'll put a YouTube, it's a YouTube, like a series of small videos. The company or like the creations are 2-minute neuroscience. And that's just a playlist of videos on different topics in neuroscience. Once you like learn about a certain aspect or certain topic, like let's say neurons, you can watch a quick video on that, which summarizes the content. So I found videos to also be helpful in helping me understand complex concepts if the book wasn't doing it.
Shouri?
Oh yeah. So I think like for neuroanatomy and stuff, videos are very helpful online. I think neuroanatomy textbook would also be helpful, but I think that's more for like further exploration. I definitely wouldn't recommend if you're just starting to read about neuroscience and are a beginner. For additional resources, I know other countries have their own national brain bees, and there's some different resources. I know specifically I looked at the Canadian one when I was preparing, and I thought their resource was pretty good too.
Thank you. Anything else, Priyanka? Or?
Yes, yeah. So I I think I shared. I'm only able to share the links to the panelists and organizers, but I shared it to. I shared 2 links for textbooks that I use. They're both free. One is called Neuroscience, Science of the Brain, and the other one is called Fundamental Neuroscience. So these are full textbooks that you can just access online that I really enjoyed using, because I would read something in the Brain Facts book, and if I wanted more information or if I wanted to just read it or have another source that explained it slightly differently so that I could understand it better, I would look at these two textbooks. And they also cover topics that the Brain Facts book doesn't cover. So it's great if you're just wanting to learn more. And then I also use 2-minute neuroscience, when you want to relax or you want something that doesn't require as much mind work on your part. Watching the 2-minute neuroscience videos are a great way to just recollect what you've read or what you studied in the past. And then in addition to that, I would also recommend looking at other regional brain bees and just searching up, the Bay Area brain bee or just other regional brain bees, because they usually will have some sample questionnaires or like practice questions that you can then use to quiz yourself. And so I remember that I made like a packet of those questions that I found online, and I use that to quiz myself as well.
Okay.
And then just adding on to that, I think it's really important to figure out how you study best. And so whether it be like taking notes in a notebook or on an iPad or creating Quizlets or something like that, figuring out how you can write down information and review them is going to be key, because like we've all mentioned that the Brain Facts book is very dense. And so in order for it to be the most helpful for you, you probably want to take notes as you go through each chapter and then review them on a periodic basis. And so for me, what helped the most was Quizlets. And so I just would create questions for, in the very beginning, very basic questions like what are the parts of a neuron or things like that. And then as it gets into more specifics, like, what does this medication do? Then you have those questions. And so mine ended up being, I think, over almost 800 or over 800 flashcards. So that is what I use, but everyone learns differently. So just take the time to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, and if you guys can jot down what the reference books or the sites or links to me today after the session, I can include them as an handout to all the attendees in our follow-up email tomorrow. And thank you.
Vijay,
yeah. Yes.
If you don't mind, let me ask a question to all the panelists, and I think they'll be able to share some experience here. I want to really ask all the panelists to share how you got started on BrainBee and when. What was your first competition? Priyanka, want to start?
Yeah, sure. So honestly speaking, when I first joined or when I first registered for the regional BrainBee, my dad just registered me, and so it was a very low stakes, low stress thing for me. I was just going to participate just to read the textbook, see how I would do. There was no I had no expectation or goal of winning the BrainBee. I just went in to participate and see what it was about. And so I just started reading the textbook with no real goal in mind. Obviously, I wanted to prepare as well as I could, but I just started reading the textbook. It was very dense, so it took me a little while to first get over that hurdle of reading the textbook. But once I got over that hurdle, then I think I just really found the book to be really interesting. And so I read, as I went through chapter by chapter, I'd also look at videos. And so when I'd come home from school, that ended up being what I would watch on YouTube. And so it kind of just spiraled into something that I was really very interested in. And I was also able to take courses at my local university related to neuroscience and psychology. So all of that really just came together, and I didn't really prepare for the regional BrainBee. I just read what I liked, and I looked at other resources that I found to be interesting, and read textbooks for my classes. And when it did come time for the regional and national BrainBees, then I felt very prepared, and that was very helpful. And so for me, I went into it, like Aryan said, without much goal or much expectation, but the interest just really, I think, fueled what I did, and my drive to study it. But the regional and national BrainBees were definitely very helpful in helping me set goals and a timeline to review stuff and learn as much as I could before then. So that is how I started.
Thank you. Aryan?
Yeah. So for me, I started preparation for Brain Bee in the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school. As I said before, I just had a passion for learning about the human body, and I wanted to learn more. So I took a summer course through iStart Valley during that summer. And once I took that course, I really loved learning about the brain. So I picked up the Brain Facts book and started preparing for the competition. For me, it was a 1 in my last year of eligibility. Since my passion for neuroscience came a little bit later in high school. So as my junior year, I only had kind of one shot at the competition to prepare and do as well as I could, since that was the last year of eligibility. So I was kind of on a time scale because I really wanted to perform well and I really loved learning about the brain. But I think with the help of the resources that NSF put out and really the prep courses, I think it makes learning the dense book a lot easier. So definitely to families and students out there, definitely recommend all the prep courses that NSF is offering, including the spring prep course that is upcoming right now. Through the spring prep course, we plan on doing multiple practice questions. Rather than teaching the students material, it's more about practice and helping them apply the knowledges. So the prep course really helped in solidifying the preparation for the North-South Foundation Brain.
Great. Yeah. Shouri?
Yeah, so I was, I think I first found out about the Brain Bee in 8th or 9th grade, but then the first time I participated in, I believe the intermediate Brain Bee actually in 8th grade, and then I did the senior Brain Bee in 9th grade, and then I also did the Chicago Brain Bee and the U.S. National Brain Bee in my sophomore year. And I think I found out about the Brain Bee through the NSF one first, just because my parents knew about NSF, and then I found out that, oh, the NSF also had the Brain Bee. And the first time I think I just, yeah, it was also low stakes, like Priyanka said. And I basically just read the intermediate Brain Bee book and then just prepared like for a week or so, and then wrote the exam. But then the next time around, I started being like more dedicated and then reading the Brain Facts book as well as other textbooks and reading more about neuroscience in general.
Thank you. And I think all of three of you are stating that you're not an expert when you started appearing for these contests or preparing. You just are started learning and then slowly got into it. And so that's a key that, we have to start somewhere and start here. Thank you guys. One question I have is, I have a student who says that he has started studying for Brain Bee for the past 5 months now. While navigating through the book, I found it difficult to grasp the information it provides. Do you have any tips in reading those books? Anybody?
Oh, yeah, I can say like the first chapter maybe I found a little difficult because of all the neuroanatomy, but I think it's helpful to maybe like read over the Brain Facts chapter multiple times, and then also it might be helpful to like write notes that really organize what each part of the brain does and how they interact together with each other. I found that to be pretty helpful.
Okay.
One of the tips I would give is, as Shouri said, just to reemphasize, take it chapter by chapter. So do not move on to the next chapter until you've really mastered the content for the first chapter. And just like for learning, you have to really engage with the material. So one way to engage with textbooks is, beside reading them, kind of being active in your learning. So like watching videos, making pictures, drawing notes. So in addition to visually like just reading the book, some students are learn by taking notes, others learn by listening. So kind of figuring out how do you study and what kind of works for you, and using those same techniques in order to prepare for the Brain Bee is a helpful tip.
Yes, I would just like to echo all the advice that both Aryan and Shouri said. I think that's excellent, and that's what I use as well. Adding on to that, brainfacts.org has short summaries for each chapter. So I definitely feel what you're feeling, because it's intimidating when you see such a long book, and with each page filled with so much information. You're like, what do I focus on when everything is so important? So I've been there, and I feel you. So for me, what helped was just taking it sentence by sentence, honestly. Reading one sentence, I think one of the first sentences talks about how the brain has 86 billion neurons. So just writing that note, writing myself a question, how many neurons are in the brain, and then having that answer, and then taking it really sentence by sentence, so that I'm not missing out any information, and I don't feel overwhelmed, because I've taken notes, and I have a way for me to review it after I'm done with that chapter. And then also looking at images. So the Brain Facts book has great images with the different parts of the brain, different parts of a neuron and things like that. But when you're beginning, I think getting different images from Google can be helpful, because they'll usually portray it in different ways, and that really helped me as well. And then I know we've said this before, but also just videos. Especially for me, I was really interested in brain dissections at one point. So I would just look up videos about, people taking a real human brain and just showing the different parts of that. And that actually helped me more than I ever thought it would, because different regional contests have different ways that they test you. And so one regional contest that I went to actually had real, images of real parts of the brain, and not just animated or clip art versions of it. And so if I hadn't looked at that resource, I think I would have been very lost, because there is a difference between drawings and the actual brain structure. So I would, just to summarize all of that, I think I would recommend that you move beyond just the Brain Facts book if you want to learn more about something, or want to use a different source that maybe explains it differently. And then also take it really page by page. Even 5 pages is a lot for one sitting. So maybe just get through as much as you can, let it sit and absorb, and absorb that information over time, and then come back to it, and know that it's okay to take this very, very slowly, and you should, in order to absorb that.
Anything, Shouri? And of course, there are a number of questions about the books and the links and the Canadian website you guys said. So we will send all the information with our follow-up email tomorrow. I will collect those information from these pros, and then we'll put it in a document and send it over to you. So please be assured. And Shouri, anything you want to add?
Oh, what was that again?
No, anything you wanted to add about, what tips you can suggest to remember stuff, whatever you're reading, because it can get overwhelming, like Priyanka said, in one setting.
I'd say another tip is to not just read one chapter and then put it in the back of your mind. You should be periodically trying to review and master the material. Otherwise, you just forget it, maybe in a week or something. You just forget everything you've read in that chapter.
Yeah, there was also a mom asking that their daughter is in the 3rd grade, and I would like to know the tips relating to the elementary level contests, how to crack a word by applying or using a strategy. Is there anything they can share with us? That's what I think we talked about a little bit already, right?
Daisy, let me expand on it a little bit before the panelists speak, okay?
Oh, okay.
So one thing that a lot of contestants, when they read the Brain Facts book, it's very abstract, right? They want to know what is the application or how to relate it to brain activities, and what's the real life implications. And I think that's what's challenging to a lot of beginners when they read the book, because it's not just memorizing, right? So what helped you really grasp what you're reading from brain facts, or how do you learn? I think that's the crux of that other question.
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. So one of the most, I think, readily applications that I can think of the top of my head is medicine as like a physician. So there are a lot of doctors out there that are neurologists, neurosurgeons, and psychologists. So one of the aspects of the neuroscience material is the information you learn. One of the aspects is diseases, and there are a lot of individuals around the world that are living with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurological disorders. So one of the things that I used when I was learning the material was, if they talk about a certain disease, right? They talk about the causes, the symptoms, the treatments. There's a lot of things that go into understanding what a disease is. Watching videos on a patient with that certain disorder is really helpful for the students. I know I use that when I teach the fall coaching courses for NSF. I show my students a lot of videos to make that information come to life and really allow them to understand. Because if you learn about a disease and then you can see a person that's living with it, you can empathize and you can kind of understand, oh, these are the implications. And in some cases, it even inspires, you to pursue that field, or, okay, I see where this is going. So watching videos, if you are studying, if you're studying anatomy, right? Like, instead of just understanding, oh, this is what the cerebrum is, this is this part of the brain on a clip art. If you have in your middle school or high school, ask your teachers if they have a brain lab. Do they have sheep brains or a practical brain? So you can actually look at a real brain and then correlate that material to the actual thing you're looking at. But if you don't have any of those facilities nearby, then definitely go onto YouTube and start looking up videos of different patients to understand diseases, and looking at different doctors doing different dissections to understand the anatomy of the brain.
Good. Another question I would like to pose to each one of you is that, how did preparing for this Brain Bee contest or Brain Bee, either North South or outside, help you in other ways, like in your regular school work, college work, or even your work ethics, and how you approach a specific problem, all those things? Anything you can provide an insight?
Yes, I can definitely talk about this. So the influence that Brain Bee has had on me is, like, I can't even, it's been a lot. So just like from my very interest, I think learning about the brain and neuroscience was my first true, really deep interest. And so I wouldn't have definitely found this passion and interest without the North South Brain Bee. And so, like I said, I went in knowing nothing really about the brain and not thinking that I would really enjoy learning about the brain as much as I do now. So it was definitely a newfound interest for me. And as I read through the Brain Facts book, I also had the unique opportunity to take college courses, and most of my college courses were either neuroscience or psychology, and that decision was definitely fueled from reading the Brain Facts book and participating in Brain Bee competition. And so throughout high school, I was able to learn much more than what I ever would have thought I would be able to do during high school by taking these classes. And in addition to that, I was also able to work on research related to the brain, and I was specifically looking for neuroscience labs because I wanted to see how I could apply the knowledge that I had learned by preparing for these contests in the real world. So like Aryan said, I think there really is something special about being able to read, what causes Alzheimer's, what causes like Parkinson's disease, or these disorders, or even, even reading about how, moving your right hand is activating a motor cortex in your left brain, and being able to think about, I just read about how the amygdala is involved with emotions and fear. So I'm currently in a situation where I'm scared. So that means my amygdala must be working or sending signals in my brain. Being able to make those connections to yourself in your own life as well as with others makes the significance of learning about the brain much bigger. And so for me, that was through research. And so I was really interested in Alzheimer's during high school. So I worked in a research lab that looked at Alzheimer's in mice. And so that was how I was able to apply what I learned. And then, well, more than that, like Dr. Vijay mentioned, the discipline and work ethic has really paid off for me because especially during high school and college and higher studies, you are usually given something to read or to work through, and you're expected to be independent most of the time. And like reading through the brain facts book helped me develop skills on ways that I could approach something that was really big or really intimidating in small ways, and also be independent throughout my studying, because I would have my parents or my brother quiz me from time to time, but they were also very busy, so I had to figure out ways that I could review that material on my own. And they weren't there to like really push me to keep studying or remind me to keep studying. And it was a discipline. It was like a weekly schedule that I followed. Every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I would sit and study for the Brain Bee. And so that discipline that I was able to create was probably the first time that I did something by myself, and that I was doing just for me and not for someone else. So that skill and work ethic has really paid off, and I think I'm using a lot of the skills and resources that I gained during that prep back in like high school right now in college as well.
Thank you. Aryan?
I think one of the other benefits of participating in Brain Bee is that, as we have said over and over again, the material is very dense and it's introductory college level material. So learning that information really sets the foundation for college courses. If you plan on going down the medical route, you will take introductory college courses at the undergraduate level. So being able to understand the information, at a very early age allows you to do more with it. So while you're in college, instead of learning that information for the first time, you are analyzing the information at a much deeper level, or trying to enrich your learning instead of just understanding it for the first time. So definitely it gives you a preparation for how to keep your studying on course and how to take in material when it does get really hard. And through NSF, I think the Brain Bee preparation really sets you up for success at an early age by teaching you those skills. And then I think one of the other amazing benefits is that you can pay it forward. I am one of the Brain Bee coaches for North-South Foundation. So even though the Brain Bee journey ends in high school, you don't have the opportunity to compete as an undergrad. You can use that knowledge to further inspire more middle school and high school students to pursue the brain. So really giving back to the community. You can use that knowledge to teach younger students, and through teaching, you also realize your own shortcomings. Because when you have to explain someone a topic, if you can't explain them in a way that they don't understand, then you realize, oh, this was something that I didn't understand before. So then through teaching, you kind of take a deeper dive onto the internet to understand a certain topic more deeply, so you can explain it to someone else. So those are some of the other benefits I believe that Brain Bee through North-South has.
Thank you. Shouri, you're a BSMD program student at Florida. How did Brain Bee help you in achieving what you have achieved right now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest help was probably the fact that I got used to reading dense scientific readings. I'd say it helped quite a bit for like in any research related setting, because it's much easier now to read any literature reviews or any research papers, because I have a fair background in reading really dense readings. And another thing it did was really foster my interest in the neurosciences. And as a result of participating in the Brain Bee, I think I have like a solid base on neuroscience that I can further expand upon.
Thank you, guys. Um, could you please name some of the science what are they trying to ask is, what are the other things available other than North-South Foundation's competitions for BrainB?
Oh yeah. So I guess other than BrainB, you could also, yeah, like as the others said, participate in mentoring other students about the brain or the human body in general, and or other basic biology related courses. And then you could also participate heavily in scientific research regarding neuroscience.
Okay, thank you. Any questions you have, Krishnan?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I think what does the neuroscience field look like today? It's a popular field, but it's also especially difficult. And what do you think, as panelists, do you think that is the field to pursue, or why should we pursue BrainB? I think at the end of the day.
So yeah, so the neuroscience is, as you said, it's an evolutionary field. It's becoming popular, and it is a difficult field, definitely, because there's a lot of different technicalities and skills to go into it. As far as should you pursue it, I think that depends on everyone's interests, So if you are interested about the human body and you like learning about science, definitely try participating in BrainB and see if the brain is an area of the body that intrigues you. Just because you pursue BrainB doesn't mean that you have to pursue the field of neuroscience. There are multiple students that participate in BrainB, but definitely choose other majors or other areas of college. And the neuroscience information does continue to help them in their undergraduate courses. As far as skills and the different routes you could go with using the neuroscience, you can become like physicians, if you really love helping patients and want to improve the lives of different people, becoming a doctor, a nurse, therapists are options. If you really like the scientific aspect and doing research, then you should consider possibly becoming a scientist, whether that means like in an academic setting, in a hospital, or for pharmaceutical companies, if you want to create the next new medication for a certain disease.
Thank you.
I would,
Yeah,
sorry, I would say something very similar. The brain is the organ that we arguably know the least about. So neuroscience is probably one of the fastest developing fields, and there's a lot of research going on, both in terms of like lab research as well as medical research. So it's definitely a very exciting field, and I'm sure it will change a lot in the coming years. So it's very exciting, but I think your passion should drive the field that you enter, because I think what will make you the most successful is the passion and knowledge that you have. So if that is for something else, then that can then you should let that fuel where you which field you end up entering. But in order to first figure that out, trying different fields is probably the way to go. And so giving BrainB a try will never hurt, and I can probably guarantee that you'll gain a lot out of it. And so yeah, just and I think it's also okay for your interest to change over time, because I was, I am and was very interested in neuroscience, but now I'm also exploring other parts of the medical field, and so I think it's okay for your interest to change, and it probably will. But joining the BrainB and participating in the BrainB competitions will help you even if you decide to go in a different field.
And one corollary question I wanted to ask is it any age level that's too early to start on this, or what grade level is the best one to start on this if you want to pursue it in the future?
Personally, I don't think there is any age too early to start on it, because I mean, people are learning since the day they're born. You know, the brain is a fascinating organ. So, like if the parents of some students are doctors, you know, they might be exposed a little bit earlier than some others to the brain, or everyone has different experiences. So, if you have students that are in elementary school that are interested in learning about the brain, that's perfect. You know, I think what matters is there's different ways to go about pursuing that interest depending on what grade level you're in. So for an elementary student, it might not be the first thing you do is open the brain facts textbook, you know, because of how dense it is. It might be showing them what a brain looks like, or showing them a video, you know. So depending on the age group, I think tailoring the learning as that student, and so they don't get overwhelmed with, oh my God, I have to do so much to learn this field. It's kind of keeping that interest and growing that seed, instead of trying to turn it down. So just being careful as to how you approach that process of passion is the most important, I believe.
And even when you start, even if you don't understand, you will keep understanding as you grow and higher grades and stuff like that, right? So that
Absolutely.
won't be a waste of time. Yeah. Anything else? So what did you guys find most substantial that's important to Brain B, other than the books and the materials you talked about, that could be more hands-on, helped you? Anyone?
I think one of the things that helped me in high school was my anatomy and physiology course. So if your school has courses, you know, whether it might just be general anatomy and physiology or a specific neuroscience class, that is definitely useful, because one of the most common places where you can get hands-on material is in classrooms, you know. So schools have a lot of resources, like they might take you on field trips, or they might bring in guest speakers, or they have, like as Priyanka said, different types of brains for students to look at. So definitely taking that learning and seeing if you can kind of facilitate it in a classroom-like model is very beneficial.
And this is a little bit unrelated, but you know, if you're interested in medicine, or just you know, want to explore that field more, then you know, you can start shadowing doctors like in high school, I would recommend. And so if you want to shadow in like neurology, then you might be able to see patients with those conditions, and like Aryan mentioned before, being able to see patients with the conditions that you read about, and you know, at least understanding to some level what might cause those conditions makes what you're reading much more important and significant to yourself. And so like go beyond the textbook and beyond the classroom, use other resources as well. And for me, I like when I would read about something, I would, you know, think about how it affects my own life. So you know, my sleep, I actually ended up changing my sleep cycle a little bit after reading about the sleep chapter in Brain Facts, because of, you know, reading about, you know, the different cycles of REM and non-REM sleep, and understanding the importance of getting that 8 hours of sleep. And so even just, you know, thinking about how what you read connects to your own life was like helped me make connections, and gave me more motivation to keep reading. So
Good. Actually, it provided a nice segue, Priyanka. There was a question saying that where do I find the research opportunities?
yeah, so this is a question that we've gotten a lot in the past before as well. And I think the way that you approach research opportunities, there are many different ways, and I don't think there's one right answer, and you might find success with different ways as well. But I can talk a little bit about how I reach out for my opportunities. So I would recommend just cold emailing, and usually you have to be like about 16 years or older in order to research, like work in a research lab, if it's a wet lab. So if you're actually in the research lab, working at a bench, you need to be at least 16 years, just for safety reasons. And so maybe once you reach that age, or when you're 15, I would recommend just cold emailing and asking people about opportunities. Usually, if you're in high school, then the big time that you have is going to be during the summer, and that's probably when it'll be best to dedicate to research. And so I would reach out in December or January at the latest, and reach professors working in fields that you are interested in. So that might be neuroscience, that might be something else, but you can go to university websites. So for example, you can look up like Rice University, just because I'm here right now, but you can look up Rice University and look at the faculty members who are doing research here, and you can find their email addresses on Rice's website. So if you find someone, for example, in the neuroscience department working on Alzheimer's and you're really interested about that, you can just send them an email and introduce yourself, letting them know that you're a high school student, what made you interested in their research, and ask to just set up a meeting or a phone call or something like that to then talk to them further about possibilities in working in their lab or something like that. And so it takes a lot of perseverance. I will definitely say that, because I had to send about 100 emails in order to get a positive response. And a lot of people will just not reply because everyone is very busy. And some people will say no because their lab is full, or they just can't take on a high school student at the moment. And so just keep emailing and make sure to only reach out to people that you are really interested in, because you need to be interested in something in order to really do well. And so I don't just reach out to the first labs you see. Really take the time to read about what a lab is doing and decide whether that is something you would like to dedicate like a full summer to, or even longer to. And so that is what I would recommend. And there are also research programs for high school students over the summer. So you can also look at summer research programs. Those are more structured, and because they are admitting high school students, you might have a higher likelihood of getting into one of those if you apply.
Yeah, so another point, I think you touched on most of the points, but another thing I might make sure to do is to affirm your availability, since I feel like a lot of the time many researchers don't want to take on high school or students who are already very busy with coursework, because research is usually an activity that needs to be continuous, and you need to usually in a wet lab setting spend a fair amount of time working on your projects in the lab. And so I think just showing that you're able to commit to work on a lot of days, and you're also able to work on the weekend as well as after school hours, that's usually one thing that goes in your favor for when talking to other researchers. And also again, you do have to email, cold email usually a lot of researchers before you can get a positive response.
Another thing I would add on is probably considering there's different types of research modalities. So as Priyanka and Shouri mentioned, there's wet lab, in which you are working with different animals like mice, and they involve a lot of chemical reactions and working with small molecules. On the other hand, there's also clinical research, in which you are working with humans and probably different imaging techniques. So figuring out, do you like working with chemicals, or would you like more patient-centered research if you get an opportunity to interact with different human subjects? So figuring out what type of modality of research you like. And sometimes, honestly, the best way to figure out if you like it or not is just to try it, So for the first time you enter a research lab, you might be scared, So try a certain research experience, If you don't like this type, try a different research modality. So I think unless you try it, it's really hard to say beforehand how you would expect that lifestyle or that experience to be. And as far as reaching out to people, cold emailing is definitely probably one of the options. Another option I would suggest is talking to teachers at your school, specifically the science teachers. They have probably had students in the past that have gotten research opportunities at their local university or over summer programs. So ask any science teachers at your school, and if you know any alumni from your university that have done research in high school or that are doing research at a local university, definitely ask them, as they might be able to give you some contacts or get you in touch with someone they know.
Yeah, and Aryan's point just reminded me of one more thing, is that in your email you can also like ask the professor or lab if you can, you know, just shadow for a week or two to decide whether that lab is a good fit for you, because I would highly like it's really important to find a lab that you like and a PI that you know you work well with, because that PI student relationship is really important. And so maybe like take 2 weeks to just shadow and see what, you know, experiments you might be doing, or what like computational work you might be doing, or coding you might be doing, if it's like a clinical research project, and see if that is something that you like. Because coming from my own experience, I went to the first lab that I got a positive response from, but I didn't really know much at that time, and I don't think I was the best fit for that lab, and so I ended up sticking just because I felt, or like sticking with the lab because I didn't really know how to come out of the lab, or how to just go through that process. And I think I would have benefited a lot from trying to find another lab that maybe fit my interests and my skills better. So take the time to like take 2 weeks to maybe shadow and see if that lab is a good fit, and if it's not, it is completely fine to, you know, politely let the lab know that, you know, you would like to try something else, and then move on to another lab that might be better fit for you. Because I think that fit and making sure that you are really happy with the lab and comfortable in the work that you might be doing is important in order to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then one last point I had was when you're talking to like the PI or another researcher, I think when they ask you like questions about what are your goals, you should be specific and say if you want to work on a project or something, or you want to work on like your own project. Obviously, you have to like demonstrate competency in the lab. Just be upfront about it. Don't say things like, I just want research experience, because I think that tends to be interpreted as, okay, I'm just here for research experience, or I'm not really as interested. And then they might just assign you like smaller tasks that you might not be interested in. So that's one thing, to just like be upfront about what are your exact goals, and don't be too generic, like I just want research experience.
Yes, definitely. And I think a lot of students in high school are looking for research papers, and it is a great goal to have to get on a research paper, but I don't think that should be motivating what lab you choose, or, you know, why you're choosing research in the first place. Because while having that goal is really great, and working towards that is a wonderful thing to have, I don't think that should be the motivating factor, because it is hard to get on publications. And so I think you should go in there to learn the techniques, learn about that field, immerse yourself in that field, and just you know, start making contributions, and the paper will come with it. But that shouldn't be the motivating factor. It is really hard to get in. Even some medical school applicants, you know, don't have publications. So don't be discouraged if it's not coming immediately, because a lot of times you'll plan for a publication to happen and then it gets pushed back. So if that is the motivating factor, I think it'll get discouraging really quick. But make sure that you're finding something else to be interested in when looking for research.
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend having a publication as your motivating factor for choosing a lab. But like if you should definitely first and foremost go with the research that you're most interested in, or you think that will most align with what you plan on doing in the future in your career. But if you really feel like strongly about wanting to have a poster published, or at least a paper or something like that published, you could always take a look at the amount of papers they publish, and then like whether undergraduate students are able to be on those papers or not. That gives you a good idea of how involved undergrads are at the lab, or high school students.
And so I know this discussion is going in a little bit of a tangent, but even if you're not able to get a paper, it is you can probably talk to your PI about a poster presentation, or attending a conference and presenting about it there. So there are other opportunities as well, in addition to papers.
I have a couple of follow-up questions to these things. One, I understand, is it has to be a local contact with the local university or local professor or clinic to get the research. Is there a national link availability or national resource available? You can get a internship anywhere, or it has to be your local area, wherever you are studying? And also, do you have to be committed to go to medical field to get a research internship, or you can just explore and then decide later too?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So for the first one, I think if you're planning on doing research during the school year, so like from August or September until May, then you probably have to be local because you have to be taking courses at your high school and then while doing research. But for over the summer, it can be anywhere. As Priyanka and Shouri have said, there are research internships, like specific research programs that say, we will accept X many students to conduct research in one of our labs for 8 to 10 weeks. And some of them have like transportation, housing costs, and meals all included in the cost in there. So if you're looking for summer programs, then they do not have to be in your local area. Many high school students take the time to go to a different state and they stay in dorms and they conduct research at other universities during the summer. And for your second question, no, you do not have to be decided on a medical field to conduct research, to do any research, whether it's computer science, medicine, business research. Research is just an important aspect of the learning process because you're getting to apply the knowledge and make improvements in that field. So if you are interested in about the human body, but you don't know whether you want to pursue medicine, that's completely fine. You know, as we said, high school and honestly undergrad too, you're just exploring your interests. So getting the opportunity to explore your interest through research is just a way for you to confirm or affirm to yourself, hey, is this the field for me? Do I like research, or do I like being more with patients instead? And seeing kind of what type of career you would like.
Yes, that's great. And then to add on to Aryan, you can also, during the school year, like you said, you probably will need to be local, especially if you're wanting to work in a wet lab. So again, going in person, working at the bench, and like doing more hands-on experiments. But if you are interested in clinical research or computational research, which is going to be more like coding and analyzing patient data sets, then that can be done remotely. And so like I'm working in a research project that is like that. And so if you, and I think that was also like an option if you are younger and you aren't 16, or your local university has restrictions on, you know, who they're able to let into work in their labs, then you can also reach out to people, you know, even across the country for research opportunities. And because usually clinical and computational research can be done remotely, so that is always an option. And then also regarding whether you need to be in the medical field, absolutely not. I think having people from different fields who are researching is a great way to, you know, combine knowledge and also disciplines to get an interdisciplinary like team to work on research. And you know, if everyone who was doing research wanted to be into medicine, we would probably, like, you know, be thinking along the same line. So it's really important to have people with different backgrounds in research as well.
Thank you. I have an interesting question. Before you jump into the brain facts and brain information, as a 6th grader, what would be the basic or fundamental science book you would recommend to get him started on in this path? Is there any suggestions?
I can't think of I can't think of a book on the top of my head right now, but I think as to like before you touch the brain facts, as far as like what knowledge is important, I think would be, I know middle schools have obviously every school has a different curriculum, but most middle schools have a curriculum where they teach about the human body, you know, like the basics of cells, how the human body functions, and they go over different types of bodily systems. So I think one of those courses is probably sufficient enough to get students the basic knowledge. So you understand like at least what a cell is, you know, and different types of cells in our body and how they perform functions. And then, as we said, probably using a prep course is very important, whether it be through iStart Valley or North South Foundation. having someone to teach you the content along the way while reading the book is very powerful, because one, you are not overwhelmed with the material as to reading it by yourself. You have someone to support you on the back end and break down the material for you. But then you also have support along the way with other types of learning modalities through videos, practice questions. So it really enforces your learning and prevents you from just having to like read the book 7, 8, and 9 times. So kind of like the teamwork learning is more efficient than trying to just tackle it yourself, I believe.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Most of the other questions I see here, guys, are about the books, the material, the online resources, or even the links for the internship and all those things. So if you guys kindly share with me and the details, whatever you can provide, I can send the details to the parents or the kids who are here, who are registered for this webinar. So that will be the most asked about question about what resources and where, book where and what and all those things. So other than that, I don't know. One guy is asking, should you take notes while reading the book? Does it help?
I think that it comes down to how does the student learn, or what is the best method of learning. For some people, it's taking notes because they like to write and the hand-eye coordination really engages them. For others, they like to watch videos. For some people, they can absorb the material based on after 2 to 3 reads. So however the student learns, definitely go with that.
Okay. Thank you guys for all of you for sharing all your experience, and even though you are just a young kids entering into college, you have done so much of work and the efforts. It's really mind-boggling. And as a professional doctor, what's any final thoughts, Dr. Balu, how to approach this?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we get very similar questions every group, right? Whether it's spelling group or it's the Brain Bee group or it's the science group, right? And a lot of the questions are something along the lines of, you know, what do I have to do to be successful, or what do I have to do to make my kids successful? And, you know, I think as happens every week, this group has demonstrated that they got an opportunity, but once they got the opportunity, they were self-motivated. And so there's no replacement for that, right? Do what you love and then love what you do. So when you get an opportunity, when you're learning something, whether you're reading a book, whether you're in a lab, whether you get a chance to do a course, make sure that as a parent and as a child, you find something interesting about it. And once you do, then you will have more internal motivation than external motivation. And then the rest will follow, right? Once you actually get really excited about the subject matter, then from there, you know, what to do with it, we can discuss and we can figure out. We have lots of experts here at North-South Foundation that can help with that. But it starts with that self-motivation and is associated with the things Priyanka's talked about in terms of learning, you know, hard work and being motivated. And all of our panelists have demonstrated that. You see Dr. Chituri is on this call, Dr. Gauri was earlier, Dr. Desi Vijay is on, right? Every one of them is a PhD, right? And none of them succeeded in what they did without being motivated themselves, without being curious themselves, without saying, I wonder if. And I wonder if doesn't come from anybody else. It starts with someone else, but it continues because of the individual. So whatever you're doing at home, take the input from these experts and do what it takes to make sure that that excitement is fostered at home through interaction. That's really when parents and children together can start to change the world through knowledge, through excellence, through education.
And that's the one treasure, nobody can take it away from you. So that's what you should aim for. Thank you everybody for your thoughts and your experiences sharing with all the kids. And I hope all the kids got what they were looking for here, and then getting motivated, encouraged. At the beginning of the webinar talk, I posed a problem to you, saying that how come you remember something you ate years ago, but you don't remember what you ate this morning or yesterday? Try to find out the answer. Read through the books, links, or anything, except don't Google it. You find it in the hard way to figure out why it happens that way. So thank you all for sharing, Priyanka, Aryan, and Shouri. And then I really appreciate your time and efforts to make this happen and then do it. Thank you.
You see, I just wanted to add one last item.
Yes.
I heard from a number of parents that Senior Brain Bee Prep Club coaching is closed. There are no spots currently open, but if you want to be on a waiting list, you can go ahead and send a note to coachingadmin@northsouth.org, and we will try to get back adding a new class if possible. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and also if any of the parents here can do the coaching for any of these subjects, also please come forward. We'll be looking for more and more coaches as more and more interest starts spreading and people want to take those kind of prep courses. So thank you very much. Thank you, all the pros. Thank you, Dr. Balu and Krishnan, for making this all happen. And we will see you right back next week, and we'll see you guys probably next year's session too. So thanks.
Thank you, pros. You guys really made the session really useful. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah.